Pineal Stories is intended for information and educational purposes only. The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as medical advice. We aim to raise awareness and foster thoughtful discussion around symptomatic pineal cysts. We are not providing medical guidance or diagnosis. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding any medical concerns or decisions. Every individual situation is unique, and only your doctor can help you determine the best course of action for your health. This is part 2 of the introduction. So then we went on, and there were more of the episodes, more of the same stuff, getting very little sleep. And I really don't understand how her body was able to function with that little sleep, because I, being healthy, did not function well. It was, upside down Kelly waking me up after only being asleep for an hour or two every night. And I would, fall asleep on the couch watching TV that evening and be awakened again and go to bed and get a little bit of sleep and awakened again and again and again. And it was so brutal how much that just wore me down. But she was up even more than me, because she had to be the one awake to, launch these investigations and start collecting this evidence and wake me up to accuse me of these things, meaning that she got even less sleep than I did. And I can't wrap my head around how a person can do that for that extended period of time, but I've seen it happen.
Definitely there were some type of weird chemicals going on that would make it impossible for me to sleep. Of course, I can't really remember what was going on in the middle of the night when I would be awake, but I can tell you that I do remember the begging, like, dear God, please let me sleep. I remember being so physically exhausted and mentally exhausted. I mean, because there was always, especially when I would kind of come out of these episodes that we call them, even if I didn't know exactly what was happening during, I did know when I was starting to come back that there's this part of you that it feels like you're far away and you're trapped and there's nothing that you can do to take control of the situation. So even though it's almost like you're an observer of what's going on and there's nothing you can do to come out of this. And so when I wasn't sleeping, I do remember being exhausted. And the sleep thing, there were times where I'd say I would be awake for maybe 3 days in a row sometimes.
At least.
Yeah. And nothing that I could, they even tried to get, I think they gave me something to help me sleep for a little while when it got really bad.
They did.
But even that maybe would knock me out for a little while, but not.
A couple of hours and that was it.
Didn't stay that way. Yeah, it was pretty brutal for everybody for sure. Yeah, it was bad.
So during all this, our son was 10 when it started, and by the time he's 12, he is unfortunately incredibly capable of dealing with mom in this situation. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is that gave him that strength, but he had it, and he would start to intervene and just say, Mom, that's not really happening. Let me help. And I didn't want him involved. I don't want him to take on that responsibility, but there were times where I was so exhausted, I couldn't argue him away from doing it. I could barely move, and he would step in and calm things down and encourage her that really, Dad's not bad and this is all okay. I'm incredibly proud of that. And I also really wish that it had never happened, because he never needed to be in a position of having to do that. But but he just rolled with it. Like, this is just the way things are, and everything's going to work out fine. And he knew every step of the way about the next medical procedure, the next surgery, the next thing that was going to happen. We didn't force anything on him with this stuff. He just wanted to know, how are we going to fix mom? And he was diligent when it came to this. He wanted to know everything that we knew. And for the most part, we told him, certainly on the medical side. And to the best of my ability, I kept Upside Down Kelly away from him as much as I possibly could. But we all live in the same house. And there are times where it wasn't possible. School was certainly a blessing, because he's gone for 8 hours during the day, and he's always been good about sleep, so quite a bit at night. But those few hours where he was here, and I just had to try to do my best to keep that away from him as long as I could. And like I said, it wasn't long enough. But he was an incredible trooper through the whole thing. I don't feel like it changed his mind, his opinion of mom or anything, because he recognized that was not mom. This is a different person who has taken mom from us. And now we have to do whatever we can, whatever the doctors say, to get rid of this person so that mom can come back, which is just awesome.
He was so happy when we went to Musk. We let him come with us. We signed him out of school. I don't remember a lot of getting there or even recovery, but I do remember one moment when I woke up from surgery and I had an appetite. I mean, I was hungry, and I did not remember what that felt like. And Paxton said I wanted pizza, and he was like, my mom is back. And I know that I wasn't fully done, but it was a big difference, because I started getting memories back. I started making memories again, which did not, I mean, there's a whole chunk of time where, it's like Paxton went from 10 to 13, and it feels like I wasn't there for it.
We were told afterward, well, we were told before, but then reminded after, that those chemicals that had been secreted would remain for up to a year. And so don't expect immediate, results overnight. And that turned out to be the case. There were still very frequent episodes in the beginning. By the 6-month mark, they were down to maybe 50% of the time. By the 9-month mark, they were down to 10 or 15% of the time. And the last real episode that I witnessed from Kelly was last month, which was October of 2024, and nothing since. And those episodes were trying because I during the years where it was always, then I always knew who I was talking to. If I weren't looking Kelly in the eye as we were speaking, if I'm cooking, I'm preparing something and we're talking, she could change into the other Kelly without me realizing it. Now, if I was looking at her, I would know it without her saying a word, because her facial features would change. She would become a different person. She would have this scowl, this disapproving look, and to the point she thought that I had hacked her phone, because her facial recognition failed. It wouldn't unlock her phone for a few minutes, and her face was contorted into this mockery of this person that I love. And it was just weird. It was even more difficult than the years where it was just always happening, because I could be talking to my wife and having a great conversation and say something. And in that sentence, that fast, that thing I had just said would be used against me by this other person. But it meant that my wife was coming back. Slowly but surely she was coming back, because I would have her for a while and then not. And then I would have her for a little bit longer and then not. And I never feel like it got me to the point where I just broke until then. One night, I was just so frustrated and hurt and just angry at the world, that because I had had my wife for a while, and then this other person just shows up and starts accusing me of stuff. And I'm standing in our living room, and there's an ottoman behind me, and she says something, and I'm like, please just stop. I really need my wife back. And she pushed me. When she did, I fell over the ottoman and landed on my shoulder. Well, I wasn't going to react. I was in pain, but I wasn't going to react to it. So I just breathed for a second. And she said, a real man wouldn't have fallen. I have to find a real man, and I'm not going to have any trouble finding a real man. And she left, got in her pickup and left, and I didn't see her for a few hours. That was a trying night. When she returned, the episode was still ongoing, but she had come back to pack so that she could go to her mom's house in Houston, that was the first time I ever thought it was a good idea. I was just to the point where I thought, great, yes, let somebody else for a little while. I'm going to go drive around the block and you pack. Well, a few minutes later, as I'm driving around the block, I get a call from her dad saying, Kelly's having an episode and you left her home alone? Yes, I did. But I'm very close and I'll be back there in a few minutes. So she had called her dad to tell on me that I had left the house while she was having an episode. And so I get back and all of these frustrations have piled up. And let me just say, we are so in sync. We have like this incredible relationship. I am desperately and madly in love with my wife. And there are lines that I would not have thought myself capable of crossing until that night, when I go back in and she's like, where is it? What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Where is it? And I said something awful, very out of character. And I very much regret saying it. I immediately regretted saying it. But I was that frustrated and that beat down by this that I did that. So, she decided that she could not go to Houston because I cannot be trusted here by myself. And that episode passed the next day. It was fine, and I had my wife back. And after that, I never got that frustrated again. No episode since that one has lasted that long. In fact, the one from October was less than 2 hours. And it was like a farewell. The one last visit from that other Kelly. And I'm very happy to see her go. And I'm very grateful to have my wife here. When we got the next news from the follow-up MRIs of her head? No.
Yeah, so we did a follow-up MRI. I think it was done just routine, just to kind of see if everything looked okay. Um, I was having some bone pain and stuff happening, and I see an oncologist in Granbury, and I believe it was her idea to go ahead and scan this again, just because the breast cancer couldn't necessarily explain it, although the medication I take could. But we did it, and it came back with, first of all, it said the surgeon did a beautiful job. That everything looked great around where the stupid thing was that was in my head. But now, after the latest MRI, a small new tumor has appeared. I believe they said it's just anterior to
Yeah.
the region where I had the surgery. So, I had a phone video appointment with the guy that I'm seeing in MD Anderson, and he decided that it would be best if I came in person this month, so in just a couple of weeks, to get an MRI at MD Anderson because they have, I guess, better technology or better MRIs there. And then immediately following, I have an appointment with him. So we don't really know much about this new area. We do know that it's not releasing chemicals. It's not causing any of the mental, psychological problems, nothing like that, thank God. It's mostly just I was having headaches and, you know, I did have brain surgery last October, so some of that is could be healing, whatever. But we're just gonna hope and pray that it's a continual watch and wait thing. That would be the best thing if we get this new MRI and he thinks that it's, there's nothing urgent about it. That's what we're hoping, praying for.
Yeah. So there's more to do on that front. But we'll just keep working through it. Okay. If you've ever been around somebody with a brain tumor, you know that slurring words is kind of a thing, at least from time to time. It happens. And the doctor that we were so happy to find in Cleburne had heard Kelly do that before. She was aware of her condition. Well, that doctor was in charge of pain management. And at one point, Kelly was on very high doses of fentanyl Percocet, hydro, all at once. And Kelly felt like it was a bit much and asked to get off of the fentanyl, the patches, and she did, weaned herself down, off, and then asked to reduce the others. And was in the process of that when she called to make an appointment. And typically I do it. I was at work. Kelly called and she slurred. And the doctor fired her as a patient out of concerns about her using those medications. It was, I don't know. I don't understand that. I'm sure that the doctor had insurance reasons for doing it, but it wasn't something that was new. And it's certainly not something that's unheard of for somebody with a brain tumor. So, so she sent her to a pain management doctor, but that doctor didn't have any appointments available for a month. So for 5 days, Kelly went from having those medications to none, and the extreme pain that goes along with that, while we desperately looked for a pain management doctor, which we found 2 hours away. and with an appointment relatively soon. So all told, 5 days, and we go down. And even that doctor said that that was insane because the dosages that she was on by that point were nothing crazy. It was just take an edge off. So uh, I have a problem with that. And to this point, I've not yet written the Google review. I've given myself a few months, and I'm probably going to give myself a few more to try to kind of think about the doctor side of this. But she had heard it before. This was not new. And Kelly was on significantly less medication by this point. And the doctor had previously gotten upset with her for asking to drop down so rapidly, but had agreed to do so. So, anyway, that's why we're not going to mention her name. Okay, sorry. I said earlier we would tell you why we weren't going to mention that doctor's name. That's it. So here we are. The brain tumor is gone, the breast cancer is gone, and now there's a new brain tumor. And you're all caught up to today, to November 2024. So the journey is not over, but the delusions are. Thank God.
Thank God.
I am incredibly grateful to have my wife back because she's awesome. And I'm very much looking forward to getting past this next thing and just getting back to regular life. A regular life would be, I don't know, almost a dream come true at this point. It's all been so difficult. The financial piece of it, we don't even, it hardly registers with us that we were a year ago, $100,000 in medical debt and another $50,000 in credit card debt because of all the traveling and all this stuff. And, we had gone through our savings and we had done a GoFundMe that raised almost $40,000.
Which was amazing.
That was awesome. People were amazing.
Yeah.
But it just drained everything.
Yeah.
And now we're recovering and, we're finally kind of getting ahead of some stuff and things are getting paid off and we're just.
Well, and you had to take care of everything by yourself. So
True.
Not just taking care of me and the rest of the family, regular household stuff that really takes two, but all of the financial burden because I couldn't work. There was absolutely no way I could work. I could not even, I would not have trusted myself to drive when I was lucid, but when, during an episode, who knows what I would have done? I don't even remember. But I couldn't work because a lot of my job requires me to drive long distance. I'm in the car a lot. And so that was a no. I mean, we went from normal 2-family paychecks. We split our household chores up the way that works for us, and to Michael having to do everything. And yeah, I'm finally able to get some work in, but my energy levels going through all of this are incredibly frustrating because they fluctuate on a daily basis. There are some days where I have a ton of energy and I get all this stuff done. And then like the past couple of days, I burn out, in the evening and that's it. And I kind of know now, I know during all of that there would be times where I thought, oh, I'm fine, I can do this stuff. And then there were things that would trigger it. If I got too tired, if I didn't eat enough, and by getting too tired, I mean, if I were to just vacuum the living room, that could just do it. That could be too much. But yeah, just getting back to normal would be awesome for sure. And we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Our house still has some recovery to go through. During all this, part of our house flooded. And so started tearing out flooring and doing stuff, and all the stuff we had kind of stored in this area has been moved to the back of our living room. So we have boxes and we have stuff everywhere. And I don't like having people over because it's not dirty, but it is certainly cluttered, is what I like to say.
And honestly,
we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, also during all of this time, speaking of Michael doing everything, I literally cannot thank him enough. I couldn't have gone through this without him, for real. And I don't know how he stayed. Like, I don't know why he didn't just say, F this, what?
Because I always believed that you would be back, and I love you very much.
And also our not our oldest daughter, but the oldest one that was still at home we moved her to college during all of this too. So we had a graduation. We moved her to a new city, and all the stuff that goes along with a first-year student. Just a lot of.
Do you remember move-in day? You don't. I know you don't.
No, I don't.
Because we went down to Houston and we spent the night with your mom. And then the next morning, I said, baby, we gotta go, because she has a time, a window of time during which she has to show up to go into her new apartment. And you got mad at me and would not get out of bed. And I said, we're going to have to go. And you were not going to go. So I took her. Paxton and I took her to Texas A&M. And we're more than halfway there when you called, and you were just furious that how dare I kidnap your daughter? And how dare I do that? And you're on speaker in the car because I'm driving. So I just tried to calm it down, and you insisted that I come back and give you the car so that you could take her. And I couldn't. I mean, we had a window of time during which we had to be there. And so that, oh golly, that just turned into a whole thing after that. So we got her in. I drove back to Houston and picked you up and drove back to A&M where she had stayed at her apartment. And we got her settled in and came back. But that mornings were always something, because if you did sleep, you wouldn't go to sleep until 6 or 7 a.m. And anytime you were going to get some period of actual sleep, it would be between 6 and 10 a.m. or 10 or 11 a.m., somewhere around there. And so I did this thing every morning, and I'm air quoting morning because, whenever it was, I kind of had a feel for when you were going to be up. So I would make you a cup of coffee and take it into the room, and I put in a travel mug with a little closure on top so it'd stay hot and it'd be there for you whenever you woke up. And then one morning you come screaming out of there that the smell of the coffee woke you up and you need sleep. How dare I do that? So I stopped doing that. And the next morning, the very next morning, I'm in work mode, and I'm digging through these sets of data, looking for whatever it was I was looking for. And I didn't hear you get out of bed and come to the living room. The first thing I hear is, "Fine, I guess I'll make my own coffee." Oh, okay. So there was nothing I could do that was right.
Wow. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse that I can't remember.
It's a blessing. It absolutely is a blessing. So, golly, I always believed that you would be back. I knew that we would get to the other side of it. I didn't know at the beginning that it was going to be 3.5 years.
Yeah.
But I always knew that you would be back. And I think that if anybody takes anything away from this, and I assume if you're listening to this, then you have a loved one who's going through something similar, and you're probably like I was, just desperate to find some connection to something that makes sense. Um, that's it. That's the one thing that you can do is look past it, look for when you get to the other side, you get that person back. And uh,
And remember that person is never doing this on purpose, and I
oh, yeah.
guarantee you that the person going through it is feeling terrible about when because they're not gonna be like this 24/7, but it's gonna be enough to feel like it is. But I guarantee you that they are gonna feel like, they're going to feel bad about it. It doesn't matter that it's not their fault, and you probably know that, but it's still they're still gonna feel bad about it, and it's still gonna hurt the person that they're closest to. That's just unfortunately how it's been, and I after this, I did a lot of, I've joined a couple of groups, like, on Facebook and stuff with people that have also had this same thing, or people that are going through it, or people that have a loved one and they're looking for help. Um, that's just the main thing. Like, it's first of all, you didn't do anything wrong. You're not a bad person. Whatever they're saying, it's literally the chemicals that are being released in our brain. It has nothing to do with you. And I don't know how it works, but it probably is a bit of whatever's going on in the world at the time probably factors into it. Um, but call the
Medical
medical.
University of South
Thank
Carolina
you. Yeah. Yes.
and Dr. Patel.
Or email him
Yes. And he gets hundreds of these, he says,
from around the world.
around the world. And right now, a year ago, there were 4 surgeons on the planet specializing in this.
Mhm.
There was him, 2 in Germany, and 1 in Australia. So there's limited resources, but he did start a foundation with his own money to study this. And of course, Kelly's pineal cyst or gland was donated to that for research. Um, and we're hopeful that they make progress and figure out some way to fight this thing, in which
Yeah,
case it
I
does.
will say it did cause a little bit of aqueduct narrowing, which did cause some headaches, and then the pressure did cause some retinal bleeding. So it just kind of depends on exactly how big it is, but mine was definitely causing both types of symptoms. I was having, the when the muscles would seize up, I would tell the doctor it would feel like something like an organ was going to just burst through my rib cage. The physical stuff actually started first. Um, and I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what. I mean, I went, like I said at the beginning of this story, I went to doctors here, but I drove to Fort Worth and I was doing all this, Michael had a job too. So I was doing this on my own. It sucks that it took both of us going in and seeing a doctor before someone finally did something, but hopefully this will help somebody get help sooner. Um, because it's awful for everyone involved. It takes so much time away from the person going through it and the person that they're living with, their loved ones, because they lose that person for a good chunk of time until it's taken care of. And right now, if the solution surgery, it's worth it because
Yes.
it's nothing. The recovery is nothing compared to the day-to-day stuff that you have to go through with it. I mean, I would do it again in a heartbeat. If that's what I needed to do, I would do it again because it was worth it 100%.
once it was all said and done, I decided to go see a counselor, a therapist, because I literally had nightmares that it was back. And so we talked, and I told him my perspective on this. And my perspective is that everything that that person does is right the opposite of what the physical entity that is that person is, right the opposite of what they would normally do. And so whoever they love the most is who they hate the most. Whoever that, they feel like they can't trust, now they do trust. There was almost no. There's some stuff I can't say yet. Maybe someday, but not yet. Moving on. I told him that I tried to look at it every time that I was being attacked, rarely physically, but occasionally, usually verbally, that I just tried to look at it that it's all opposite. And so she must really love me a lot to hate me this much. And by the end of that session, he told me I was probably the most well-adjusted person coming to his practice because it's a great way to look at it. So maybe I got some psychology bragging points there, but I encourage you, if you're on my side of this thing, you have a loved one who is lashing out at you, do your best, and it's impossible sometimes, but do your best to at least look back on it as that's why you're the person that they love and trust the most. And so in Bizarro world, it's right the opposite of that.
I believe that because I have a nurse friend whose husband, unfortunately, he died from brain cancer. Um, and there is something that happens in the brain when you have any type of growth that's not supposed to be there. And one of the things that happened to him as well was he lashed out at the person that he loved the most. And this, my friend, is an awesome person. She is a nurse now. And I think she was just so strong through it all. Her kids were still really young. And she understood that what he was saying to her, I mean, he would say the most horrific things. And she knew that that was not him talking and that that's not how she was going to remember him. And she hasn't. And she still keeps his memory alive with her girls, which I totally respect. And if that's the other thing too, if you have something in your brain, you're still not going to know for sure. The doctor still didn't know for sure until it was out exactly what it was. There were differential um, indicators. It seemed like, because I had multiple MRIs during this time, and it seemed like every time I got an MRI, keep hitting that, it seemed like every time I got an MRI that there was another possibility of what this could be. And, you know, regardless of where, regardless of where it is, well, I guess it has to be in that area for it to do this particular thing. But any type of brain growth, they're going to, if it gets surgically removed, they are going to send it to pathology and just double check and make sure. But anything that's in your brain just can really mess with your mental health.
Yeah, during that time where Kelly was here and then not, as she was coming out of it, there was a kind of a period of time where she was a little bit of both each time. So, going into it was just that fast. Coming out of it was kind of a gray area. And I would tell her what had just happened to see if she was aware of it. And she was occasionally, she was still too far into it and would get very mad at me. telling me that, I would never do something like that. And I would tell her, you're right. My wife would never do something like that. That was not my wife. And that was the tumor. And she didn't really care for that so much, but I stand by it. And once it was all over with, she certainly understood where I was coming from on that.
Yeah.
So, okay. I hope that at least hearing this, if you're going through this, I hope that knowing that you're not the only one helps, because there were times where I was profoundly lonely. I couldn't tell anyone really what was going on because I didn't want them to think ill of my wife. And I couldn't do anything except for keep it bottled up. And so I would encourage you to not do what I did. That person is not going to want you to say anything to anybody because it's embarrassing. It's a terrible thing that is happening to them. But you got to take care of yourself, and you don't want to wind up, on the other side of it, with these horrific nightmares. And so find a professional and talk, just do it before it's over. Unlike what I did, which was wait until after and then deal with it all at once. That was a bad idea on my part, and I would discourage it.
And for the person going through it, I can't even describe how alone you're going to feel. There's no one on the planet, not even someone else not even me who's been through this before. I might be able to empathize, but the complete and total darkness of not being able to talk to anybody. You're not even going to be able to talk to a professional yet because it's not you. But during the times where you are there, you still can't explain it. And so my advice would definitely go talk to a professional afterwards to process it all. I actually did. I was doing it for another reason, but I spent 8 hours talking to this doctor, and I think it was very helpful. He definitely helped me process some stuff, but that's probably the most alone that I've ever felt, even being surrounded by family, because I still to this day can't explain what it feels like. And I don't want to go, oh, well, I hope it happens to you. So you want to, because I would never wish this experience on my worst enemy. It's just too horrible. It's awful. And don't take watch and wait for an answer if this is happening to you.
Absolutely insist, demand, or move on, find another doctor. Make them do what's right, or find somebody that will, or drive to South Carolina. Mm-hmm. 3 years, it was brutal. Like I told you before, my son died when he was 19. In 1998, I was medevaced out of Bosnia. I'm a disabled veteran. I've seen some stuff, and I've never been through something like this. The medical community that says that this is a watch and wait situation because it's not going to kill you, they are wrong. Mm-hmm. If that is the attitude of your doctor, find a better doctor. And if there's something that we can do to help you, I can't volunteer to talk to everybody who's on the other side of this thing, but I'll try. Reach out. I mean, if it's to the point where you're at your wit's end, You just don't know what to do anymore. I don't know that I have any super great advice, but I've been there,
Mhm.
and I will do my best to guide you towards a solution to this thing, because it's something that the medical community is just getting wrong.
Yeah, if we could help anybody else going through it or dealing with somebody going through it, I mean, that would be amazing because it would give a purpose for all of this, to know that something that we had to go through also helped someone else. Because I truly would not want any family to go through this. It's awful, truly.
But here we are on the other side. I have my wife back. Life is getting better.
Yeah.
We're happy. I'm insanely happy. I'm incredibly lucky. Just to put it out there one more time. I'm an insanely lucky guy.
Same.
My wife is awesome, and I have her back. And so there is light at the end of that very dark tunnel. So
Yes.
don't take no for an answer. Work the system until the system works for you. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I'm Michael Abels. This is my awesome, amazing, and beautiful wife, Kelly Abels. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And I decided to put an addendum here at the end. We finished this recording a few days ago. It just occurred to me that when Kelly was not in an episode, if she took a shower or bath in hot or even like kind of extra warm water, that was a trigger. She would immediately go into a full-blown episode if she took anything other than a cool bath or shower. Someone out there knows what that means, I assume, but I am not that person. Something to watch out for. All right, thanks, y'all.